Hey guys, I just wanted to make this video because I've seen a lot of comments on YouTube with people talking about how you seemingly can't really make realistic looking whips, you can't bring them back nice and smooth, and I truly just think that people have not put enough time into figuring out all the aspects of the system and how it works. I've been playing this game for about a week, and I haven't learned all the tracks and that kind of stuff, but I've spent a good bit of time kind of free riding around, hitting jumps, and figuring out how I can actually hit some jumps, throw some really nice looking whips, and I gotta say, I'm really enjoying the system. There's a lot to it. Both of the analog sticks do a very different function when it comes to the in-air physics in this game, and I really like that because it allows so much different variation of all the styles of whips. You can throw brake taps in, and it's individual for the rear and front brake. It all affects the in-air physics differently. So I just want to kind of show you guys how I approach some of the whip styles, and just break down a little bit of how the whip physics works. So first thing I'll do is just kind of show you this jump right here. This is actually one of my favorite jumps to practice whips on. I just find that the angle is really nice. So first I'll just kind of show you what I see a lot of people doing when it comes to the whips, and it's really just kind of like going the whip out to the left and bringing it back. It doesn't look super realistic, and I understand why people are complaining about that. A lot of times you'll see people do whips that look a little bit like this here. And that's okay. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but it just doesn't look like a super convincing whip. So I just wanted to show you guys like what you can do to mix it up and make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some whips here. If I get a really good one, I'll go ahead and back it up and just kind of explain to you what I'm doing. If I would clear the landing a little bit better, that would also help. Alright, so that was a decent example. It wasn't the craziest whip ever, but good enough to kind of show you guys where I'm coming from here. So just to break it down, I'll just kind of explain to you what I'm doing as far as the movement of the sticks go. And I'm not doing any brake taps or anything crazy in this whip here. I can show you that I can show you guys that stuff a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to show you this basic whip right here. Basically, as I go off this jump, the initial thing I'm doing is actually leaning both sticks back. I'm pulling back on the handlebars, and we're leaning back because we want as much height as possible in this jump to actually be able to do the whip that we want to do. So at this point, you can see I'm leaning back. We're getting a whole bunch of height, and you see how the head shifts over there. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm shifting both sticks over to the left, like most people do when it comes to the whips in this game. Alright, so you see that starts to get that arc out. Now, after we were leaning back, that leaning left actually kind of gets a good like circular arc around versus if we were going off the jump and just leaning left. So you keep holding that left lean until you reach about this point here. And now this is where the really important aspect comes in, how you can make the whips look a little bit more realistic. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually shifting the weight of both sticks a little bit forward. Now, you don't have to do both sticks, you can mix up your style and all that, but the general idea is you want to get a little bit of a forward lean at this point here, and that's what's going to make it look much more convincing of a whip. So here the front end starts going down, and at this point we're starting to get kind of close to the landing here. So this is where we're going to start having to try and bring it back around to be able to make that landing nice and smooth. So at this point, because the rear end is so high, what we're going to do is we're going to shift the weight with the right stick, the rider weight back, and then we're going to counter steer with the left stick to actually bring it back around. So we're going to have the left stick just a little bit to the right, not super aggressive. We're just going to kind of feather it because one of the most important things about making a good whip is that it returns nice and smoothly and slowly. So you lean back to start bringing that front end up, and you counter steer back to the right until you can get that nice smooth landing. So I go ahead and play it through so you can see how it is. So you get this whole wide arc, and the rear end comes up over you and you bring it back. It might not be the craziest, you know, best whip out there, but it's a pretty decent looking whip, and I think it's pretty realistic and a very enjoyable system. It actually has a lot more versatility than even the reflex whip system, because the handlebar, pressing and pulling on the handlebar makes a much bigger difference, and you can just switch it up, do different things. So alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and move over to a different jump here, just so you can kind of see how the feel is on a different one. This is actually a pretty decent one here, because you get a ton of air. That's a decent whip right there. Not my favorite, but not bad. Alright, so now I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm doing here. I'm actually doing really the same type of whip, but it just looks different, you know, depending on which jump you hit. So, right here you can see I'm leaning all the way back. We're going to get lots of height out of that. Shift the weight over to the left, and just hold that, because we got enough hang time to throw a pretty nice whip here. So at this point, I'm still leaning left, but basically now I'm going to make the transition to start leaning forward. And we're really going to get that height out of the rear tire, and that's what makes it look like such a nasty whip. Let me just get a different angle of this if I can. I can't really get too good of a angle on that. But anyways, at this point, we're almost at like a 12 o'clock here. Like, the back tire is so much higher than the front, so we're definitely going to have to start bringing this whip back and definitely leaning back with the right stick. Don't forget to do that. So I'm going to lean back with the right stick, and I'm going to start counter steering with the left stick over to the right to bring that whip back. Keep leaning back. Keep leaning back. We got to get that front end up. And there it is, right down to the landing. So I'll go ahead and just kind of play it through so you can see how smooth it goes. Back, left, forward, and back. There it is, plain and simple. So basically there's a whole bunch of different whips you can do in this game. That's just your basic sort of free whip. It's a turn, I guess it would be a turn down free whip. You can also do turn ups. I'll kind of see if I can show it to you, but I'm still experimenting with this. I'm not really super smooth with it, so bear with me. Yeah, so I gotta figure out exactly what the right time is to actually do that. But basically what I'm doing is I'm using like the old style milestone opposite stick movement scrub mechanic, essentially. But in this game, if you do it when it's not off the face of the jump, you get basically an oppo whip. But what I was experimenting with is if you are in the middle of kind of your regular sort of free whip and then you initiate that opposite stick movement, it really makes for really cool movements, and you can kind of incorporate that to just make unique whips. I'm still experimenting with that, so I'm not super good at it. Just understand that. See, there we go. So I didn't land it because I'm not exactly sure how to bring it back at the end, but basically what I did here is I leaned back like I was starting a regular whip, leaned left, And then right when I got to this point right here where I would typically transition my weight forward, instead what I did was shift from being both sticks left to bringing the right stick to the right, opposite from the left stick, and watch what happens. Right there. He shifts and everything kind of just halts and you get this nice like floaty whip there. So if I can just figure out how to make that nice and smooth, maybe I'll make another video to kind of show you guys how to make that work. But experiment with it on your free time. I'm sure you'll be able to make some really cool looking whips. I'm not great at the oppos in general, so it makes sense why I would be having a hard time figuring this out. And the other thing I'm not great at right now is the actual scrub mechanic. I've seen people actually able to make the scrubs look really nice, bring it back really smoothly and not jerky at all. I just haven't put in enough time to really figure out how to do it yet. So what I've been focusing mostly on is these free whips, and hopefully this explanation has been helpful for you guys. And hopefully you can, go ahead and experiment in your own time and maybe come up with some nice whip styles. I'd be happy to see what you guys can come up with. Alright, well, this is Ace Helix. Just coming at you with a little bit of an informational video for Monster Energy Supercross 3. Hopefully you liked it. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section down there. Leave a like if you liked it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.